"Will you stay if I show my scars?" the Apache woman asked the cowboy who risked his soul to protect. The twin suns of Zion Outpost hung low in the dusty sky, casting long amber shadows across the desert plains. The outpost was little more than a cluster of metallic domes, worn grav lifts and winding dirt paths carved through red dunes. From the horizon a lone rider appeared, his grav horse kicking up spirals of rust-colored dust as he approached. Jax Rourke, the cowboy bounty scout, adjusted his wide-brimmed hat and tightened the straps of his energy satchel. He had been wandering the Orion Dust Belt for months, chasing rogue AI bandits that disrupted settlements and trade caravans. He was a man of few words, preferring action and caution over conversation, but his instincts told him today would not be ordinary. As he neared the main dome of Zion Outpost, he noticed a figure standing alone on a ridge, outlined against the larger of the two suns. She was tall, her posture strong yet graceful, and her hair shimmered darkly in the fading light. What caught his attention were the patterns along her arm. Geometric lines that glowed faintly with energy. They traced the shape of a map, but not a map of land. This was something else, something older, something alive. "Hey!" Jax called, halting his grav horse a few meters away. Dust swirled at his boots as he studied her. She did not turn immediately. He noticed the way she held herself, cautious but unafraid. Finally she spoke, her voice calm yet edged with curiosity. "You're far from the main trade lanes. What brings a lone rider like you here?" "I follow trails," Jax said carefully. "Sometimes trails of trouble, sometimes trails of reward. You?" "I'm searching," she replied, slowly lowering her hand to reveal more of the glowing marks on her arm. "Searching for answers?" There was something familiar in her eyes, something that felt like the weight of experience and pain. And then she asked the question that made him pause, almost unreasonably so. "Will you stay if I show my scars?" Jax blinked. He had heard a lot in his time wandering the Dust Belt, but he had never heard anyone ask that before, not in those words. It was not a challenge of skill or bravery. It was a challenge of trust. "I don't know," he admitted. Truthfully, he hadn't trusted anyone in a long time. Loss and betrayal had taught him that staying often meant risking more than he was willing to lose. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded, almost as if she had expected his hesitation. "Fair enough. But you should know I won't hide who I am, and I won't leave, not unless you force me." Jax felt a small weight in his chest, an unfamiliar tug. He adjusted his satchel and nodded slowly. "All right, then maybe we start by talking." She told him she was the last in her line of frontier guides, her people having vanished in the last tech war. Each line and glow on her arm represented a memory she carried, a burnt-out settlement, a friend lost to a collapsing habitat, a day she had survived when others hadn't. Each scar was a story. As they spoke, a strange phenomenon caught Jax's attention. The air shimmered, a faint distortion on the horizon that made the dunes seem to ripple like water. The twin suns reflected off the shifting light, creating patterns that were almost hypnotic. Nijani's gaze followed his, her eyes narrowing. "That's not natural," she said. "It's a rift, a tear, in space-time. I felt it in my map hours ago, but I didn't know exactly where it would appear." He had dealt with anomalies before, gravity wells, solar flares, rogue satellites, but he had never seen a rift open in the middle of a desert. And the rift wasn't just an abstract danger. It caused faint tremors in the grav lifts, sending small drones spiraling out of control and distress signals pinging across the outpost. "Why here?" Jax asked. "And why now?" Nijani shook her head. "I don't know. But someone is trying to rewrite the past, or at least the history of the frontier." The idea sounded impossible, but Jax had learned to accept impossibilities. The frontier was filled with impossibilities. People lived on asteroids with barely breathable air. Machines thought and plotted like humans, and he himself had survived situations that should have killed him. "We need to check it out," Nijani said, urgency threading her voice. She gestured toward a hovering star sled tethered behind her dome. "If we wait, it might grow unstable, and if that happens, the rift could swallow everything nearby." He had always been cautious, but something about her presence demanded trust, and besides, curiosity and responsibility often outweighed caution in the frontier. He swung onto the grav horse, feeling the familiar weight of his weapon's satchel and energy pulses, and nodded. "Lead the way." The sled glided over the dunes with effortless speed, kicking up trails of sparkling sand that hung in the low sunlight. Najoni piloted it smoothly, her glowing arms scanning the horizon, while Jax kept watch for any unexpected interference. As they approached the rift, the distortion became clearer. The air twisted, shimmering with colors that did not exist naturally on the spectrum. Jax felt a strange pull in his chest, a disorientation that made the grav horse's hooves tremble against the sand. Najoni reached out, her arm glowing brighter as her energy map reacted to the anomaly. "Oh, it's connected to my past," she said softly, almost to herself. "Some part of my history is calling me." Jax glanced at her, seeing the mixture of fear and determination in her eyes. "Your scars?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "Exactly. And if we don't face it, the frontier might lose more than just me or you. This rift can erase places, memories, entire lives." It wasn't just about chasing rogue AI or claiming bounties. It was about history, survival, and connection. And suddenly the question she asked earlier returned to his mind. "Will you stay if I show my scars?" He didn't answer immediately. He wasn't sure what staying meant, not just physically, but emotionally. But as he watched her focus on the rift, guiding them closer, he made a decision that surprised him. He would not turn away. "Then let's do it," he said finally. "Let's face whatever this is, together." Najoni looked at him, a faint smile brushing her lips. It was not a triumphant smile, nor a sign of victory. It was something softer, something rare in the frontier. Relief. She reached over, briefly touching his arm, a gesture of trust and acknowledgement. The rift loomed larger now, its shimmering edges crackling with energy that bent light and reality alike. Jax and Najoni exchanged a glance, each understanding the stakes without needing to speak. Whatever lay beyond that distortion would challenge them, test them, and perhaps even change them. And yet, as the sled hovered above the twisting sands, both felt an odd sense of anticipation. Not fear, not dread, but a recognition that some journeys were meant to be shared. Some scars, once revealed, demanded acknowledgement, and some bonds, once formed, could withstand even the strange and the impossible. With a final deep breath, they propelled themselves into the shimmering air above the rift, the sands below dissolving into colors that danced like liquid light. Whatever awaited them in the folds of space and memory, they would face it side by side. And in that moment, Jax understood a simple truth about the frontier. It was not just the places, or the dangers, or even the mysteries that defined it. It was the connections formed along the way, and the courage to stay, even when the scars were shown. The stars above and the dust below seemed to acknowledge their unspoken pact. This was only the beginning. The rogue planet loomed ahead like a dark jewel against the streaked orange sky. Its surface was jagged, cratered, and nearly uninhabitable, yet the rift shimmered directly above it, bending the light of the twin suns in ways that made Jax feel dizzy. Najoni guided their star sled with steady hands, her glowing arms scanning constantly, tracing the energy ripples of the rift. "This place," Jax muttered, leaning forward to see through the dusty glass of the cockpit. "It doesn't feel like anywhere I've been before." Najoni shook her head. "It's not meant to be familiar. This is a forgotten colony, abandoned long before most settlers even reached the Dust Belt. And something, or someone, has been keeping it alive." Jax's eyes narrowed. He had been through countless abandoned settlements, but there was something different here. The air hummed faintly, carrying a resonance that seemed almost like a whisper, or maybe a warning. He glanced at Najoni, and she met his gaze without flinching. "We have to land," she said firmly. "We can't analyze the rift from above. It's feeding off emotions, memories, regrets, fears. We need to confront it at the source." The sled touched down on the uneven surface with a soft hum, its repulsor thrusters adjusting to the craggy terrain. Jax hopped out, boots crunching against the rocky ground, and took a moment to survey the place. Broken towers and remnants of domed habitats dotted the landscape. Strange crystalline growths rose from the ground, pulsing faintly as if they were breathing. "This place is alive," Jax whispered, more to himself than to Najoni. She nodded, walking toward the central dome that had once served as the colony's hub. "It remembers. The rift is using the memories embedded here, and we're going to have to face ours, too." Jax's stomach tightened. Memories were dangerous in the Dust Belt, especially memories you wanted to forget, but he stayed silent, letting her lead the way. Inside the central dome, the atmosphere was cooler, the air tinged with a faint hum of lingering energy. Holographic images flickered around them, projections of the colony as it had once been. People walking the halls, children laughing, machinery humming in rhythm with life. And then the images shifted, showing destruction, chaos, and the fear of those long gone. This is what the rift feeds on, Nijoni explained. The echoes of pain, the regrets left behind. If we let it, it will trap us here, reliving the worst parts of our pasts. He could feel the pull already. A subtle tug at his chest, dredging memories he'd buried deep. The mission he had failed. The lives lost because of a single misstep. He had never spoken of it, not even to himself. And now the holographic echoes pressed against him, whispering reminders of those moments. Nijoni reached for his hand. "You don't have to do this alone," she said softly. "I'll show you my scars, and you can share yours if you want. We have to face this together." He hesitated, the weight of his own memories threatening to freeze him. But seeing her courage, the way her scars glowed with honesty and strength, he realized that staying meant more than survival. It meant trust. "I'll try," he said finally. Together, they stepped into the heart of the dome, and the echoes intensified. The holographic images twisted, not cruelly but insistently, pulling at their emotions. Jack saw the mission that had haunted him replayed, the friends he had tried to save, the moment he realized he couldn't. Pain struck him like a physical weight, yet he held Nijoni's hand tightly, anchoring himself to reality. Nijoni exhaled slowly. "My turn," she said. She lifted her arm, allowing the glowing lines of her energy map to illuminate the dome. The images around them shifted again, this time to her memories. Her tribe abandoned on a collapsing habitat. The fire that consumed the structures she had sworn to protect. The faces of people she loved disappearing into smoke and dust. Jax listened quietly, holding her hand, feeling her pain as vividly as his own. The echoes didn't stop. They pressed on, curious, probing. But together they began to recognize a pattern. These were not enemies. They were tests, reflections, a mirror of the emotions each carried. "The rift isn't evil," Jack said slowly. "It's waiting for something. Understanding." Nijoni nodded. "It wants us to show our scars, not hide from them. Only then will it let us pass." The two shared a glance, and in that moment, they made a silent pact. They would open themselves fully, not with shame or fear, but with acceptance. Nijoni projected the memory of her tribe again, but this time she focused on the courage, the love, and the small victories, letting the light of her energy map glow brighter. Jax followed, reliving his failure but also the lessons, the moments of bravery, and the compassion he had shown, even when outcomes were grim. The dome pulsed in response, energy rippling outward as the rift above trembled. Shadows twisted into shapes of recognition, and the echoes began to soften, their whispers becoming faint, almost like sighs of relief. The air was no longer threatening. It was alive with acknowledgement. Jax felt his chest lighten. The burden of his past mistakes, though still heavy, no longer felt like a trap. Nijoni's presence beside him grounded him. "We're doing it," he said. "Yes," she replied. "Together." It was not human, not fully, but neither machine. Its form shimmered like a hologram, a guardian of memories, created long ago to protect the colony's legacy. The AI relic that Nijoni had sensed. Its eyes, or the closest thing to eyes, focused on them, and it spoke, not in words, but in feelings. Warmth, understanding, patience. It did not judge. It did not demand. It simply reflected what they had offered: courage, honesty, and trust. Jax and Nijoni both realized that the rift's threat had been a test, a challenge to their willingness to confront the past together. And as they projected their memories fully into the Guardian, the rift began to close, its distortions smoothing out into gentle waves of light that faded into the sky. The echoes quieted. The dome felt still, peaceful. Jax exhaled, letting his body relax for the first time in months. Nijoni's glow softened, her arm tracing the last of her energy map as if saying goodbye to the pain she had carried. "We did it," Jack said quietly, a smile tugging at his lips. Nijoni turned to him, a faint tear in her eye. "We faced our scars," she said. "Not just mine, not just yours. We faced them together." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the rogue planet's jagged surface bathe in the light of the twin suns. There was no celebration, no triumphant fanfare, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had survived, not just physically, but emotionally. Jax finally spoke, his voice soft but steady. I think staying doesn't have to be scary. Maybe it just means we don't run from what we've lived through." Nijoni smiled, a warmth in her expression that made the stars above seem brighter. "Exactly. And maybe showing our scars isn't weakness. It's proof that we've survived." As they prepared to leave the colony, stepping back onto the sled, Jax felt something shift inside him. The frontier was still dangerous, still unpredictable, but he was no longer alone. Whatever challenges awaited them, whatever anomalies, rifts, or rogue AIs, they could face them side by side. Their scars were visible, yes, but they were also badges of courage, of resilience, of connection. The star sled lifted gently, gliding over the crystalline terrain as the rogue planet shrank beneath them. The rift above shimmered one last time before fading entirely, leaving only the vast expanse of stars and dust. Jax looked at Najoni, her face lit softly by the glow of her arm. "We're not done yet," he said. "No," she replied, "but we're ready." The frontier awaited them, full of mysteries, challenges, and stories yet to be written. And for the first time in a long while, Jax didn't feel like a lone wanderer. He had a companion. He had trust. He had a shared purpose. And as they sped toward the horizon, the twin suns casting golden streaks across the dust belt, both knew that whatever the next challenge might be, they would face it together, their scars shown, their hearts open, and their courage renewed. The star sled glided over the endless dunes of the dust belt, the twin suns reflecting off the red sand like molten gold. Jax Rourke sat beside Najoni silent for a while, letting the soft hum of the sled fill the space between them. The rogue planet and the rift they had faced were far behind now, yet the experience lingered in their minds heavy but enlightening. Jax glanced at Najoni. Her arm glowed faintly, the energy map now calm, peaceful, almost serene. The scars she had revealed, the memories of her tribe, the abandoned colony, the loss and fear, were still hers, but the weight of them no longer pressed down in the same way. "Do you ever stop thinking about it?" he asked quietly. "About the past?" Najoni looked at him, her eyes reflecting both suns. "I think about it sometimes. But I don't let it stop me. I've learned that showing my scars doesn't mean staying in the pain. It means moving forward, carrying the lessons." Jax nodded slowly. He thought about his own memories, the mission he had failed, the people he had tried to save and couldn't. He realized he had spent too long running from them, pretending that moving from one frontier to the next would erase the past. But he had learned something vital over the last few days. Sharing his scars, facing them with someone he trusted, had made him stronger. They approached the edge of the outpost, where a small field of crystalline rocks shimmered faintly under the sunlight. Najoni guided the sled down, and the pair stepped onto the sand. For a moment they just stood, letting the light wash over them, feeling the wind carry the scent of the desert and the faint metallic tang of frontier technology. "I wonder," Najoni said after a while, "how many people out there carry their own rifts, memories they're afraid to face." "More than we'll ever know," Jax replied. "But maybe that's why we keep moving, isn't it? To find someone who can help us face them." Her smile was small, gentle, but it reached her eyes. "Maybe. And maybe sometimes the right person isn't just anyone. Sometimes it's the one who stays even when the scars are visible." Jax chuckled softly. "I guess that would be me then." "Maybe. But it has to be mutual. Trust works both ways." They spent the next hours surveying the horizon. The dust belt stretched endlessly, but the twin suns made it glow with hope instead of emptiness. Their journey through the rift had changed them. The frontier still held danger, uncertainty, and endless mysteries, but it also held opportunity to protect, to understand, and to grow. "Do you think the Guardian will be okay?" Jax asked, thinking of the AI relic they had left behind. Najoni nodded. "It learned from us. It will protect what needs protecting now, not just the memories, but the lessons. It's no longer bound by fear or regret. It understands choice, trust, and courage, just like us." In a way, the Guardian was a mirror of what they had become, aware, compassionate, and resilient. The frontier was full of challenges, but they had discovered that courage was not the absence of fear. It was facing it, together, and letting your scars guide you rather than bind you. As the suns dipped lower, the pair made their way back to Zion Outpost. Along the way, Jax noticed small details he had never seen before. Tiny desert flowers clinging to the dunes, a group of settlers working together to repair gravlifts, the quiet hum of machines returning to life after weeks of neglect. The world was fragile, yes, but full of life. And now, for the first time in a long while, he felt connected to it. At the outpost, they were greeted by the settlers. Curious but cautious, Najoni explained what they had faced, the rift, the echoes, and the Guardian. Jax added the parts that involved courage and choice, careful to leave out the private details but not the lessons. The settlers listened in awe, not for the danger they had avoided, but for the strength it took to confront themselves in the unknown. As night fell, the twin suns replaced by the glow of distant stars, Jax and Nijoni found a quiet ridge overlooking the settlement. The wind carried the soft sounds of life, machinery, conversation, and the gentle shuffle of grav horses returning home. "I never thought I'd find someone I could trust like this," Jax admitted, sitting down beside her. Nijoni tilted her head. "And I never thought I'd meet someone who would stay after seeing my scars." They shared a long silence, watching the stars shimmer over the horizon. Jax realized that trust, once fragile, was now a bridge between them, built with patience, honesty, and courage. "I'm not sure what comes next," he said, "but I do know one thing. I'm staying. Not just here, not just with you, but I'm staying with myself. And I think that's enough for now." Nijoni reached over, taking his hand gently. "That's more than enough." That's the start of something real. For the first time in years, Jax felt at peace. The frontier still held mysteries, but he no longer feared facing them alone. With Nijoni by his side, he knew he could face whatever came, rifts, echoes, or unknown dangers. Their scars were not marks of weakness, but badges of courage, reminders of the past and beacons for the future. The next morning, they rode out together across the dunes, the star sled skimming smoothly over the soft sand. The twin suns warmed their faces as they moved toward the horizon, where new settlements awaited, new challenges called, and new memories were ready to be forged. "We should leave a message for the next travelers," Nijoni said, "something about courage, trust, and scars, so they know it's okay to face the past." Jax nodded. "I like that. Maybe a map, too, showing them what's safe, what to avoid, and what's worth protecting." As they wrote their message into the energy grid of the outpost, Jax realized that the frontier was not just a place. It was a teacher, a mirror, and a home. And for the first time, he felt like he truly belonged. The suns climbed higher, the winds of the dust belt shifted, and the stars above winked faintly in acknowledgement. Jax looked at Nijoni, a smile tugging at his lips. "Ready for the next adventure?" She grinned, energy map glowing softly in response. "Always. But this time, we face it together." And with that, they rode on, twin hearts open, scars revealed, courage renewed, and a bond that no rift, echo, or frontier mystery could break. The stars above and the dust below seemed to hum in quiet agreement. The frontier was theirs, not to conquer, but to live fully, to protect, and to grow. Because in the end, staying, trusting, and showing your scars was not weakness. It was the greatest act of courage of all.